We are 1 week after the bonsai trophy, and this is one of the trees that I took home with me. It's a persimmon, or also known as a kaki, and of course these are grown for these nice little red fruits. Kaki is for me a new species. I'm going to harvest the fruits. The fruits are basically like a plum. They have a big seed in them. I'm going to take it out of the pot, let it grow for the season. Let's get started. Somewhere in spring, once it has recovered, I say, okay, let's clean this up. These fruits are very old. Some of them are soft and started to rot. I'm just going to put quite a lot of them here in one pot. So this is just my regular substrate, but then when I've sifted it to get all the fines out, this is what I've left over. And I just use that every once in a while for propagation. I'll water this well. I'll put a rock on top and then we'll just put it outside until spring. Now here there's a big cut mark. There's here a big cut. There's here a big cut. There's a big cut here and a little bit of a wound here. And here it has been at one point pruned, and here as well. So there's quite a few places that I need to improve this tree. But now for the repot, I'm not going to do anything extreme, I hope. I'm just going to take it from the pot, as usual, clipping the wires at the bottom. I like the pot, so I'm probably just going to plant it back in. But I'm going to use a lot more open substrate. And the substrate that is in now looks like it is a kadama. I don't really like it in my climate. I find it gives a lot of problems. I'll mix in a little bit, but besides that, nah. This is of course the time to also look at the tree and decide upon the potential front. Here you see the main trunk running away. These two are behind the main trunk. So this looks like it could be the back of the tree. I flip it around and indeed you have a nice 1, 2, 3 trunk option here. But there's a very tall root. But if you look here and there, there is very nice potential surface root. So this root can be cut off. However, I don't know kaki. So I'm going to leave this on for now, but with a bit of wire, I'm marking this one for summer. And in summer I'll just cut it. I'm not going to cut it off, I'm just going to cut it short. Then, if I look at the roots, you can't tell, but here inside is a very big root. The big root is a continuation of this trunk. So I'm going to leave that alone as well. I'm just going to prune back all these longer roots going down, very short. And then I'm going to plant it up. If you think of removing this big tree and you just keep this one, and that trunk, and these I can of course still position, we have a very nice 3 trunk tree coming up. And then you have got nice taper, you've got a good root spread, very broad base here. Really happy with that. This is going to go, and I've got a very nice tree. And here you can see the big root. This is the one that I meant before. I can't, well, maybe I can cut it off now, but I don't know kaki. So I'm just going to leave it on for now, see how it responds to this root repot. And then maybe next season, or next repot, I will remove this big root. Some of the old akadama I'll just toss in. And then we set this as a front. And at a bit of an angle. It's not completely optimal. This is roughly how I want it, but it fits, and now I can just clip that off later on. It is nicely tied in, and now I can just fill it up with substrate. For tall root balls like this one, I prefer to add substrate, wiggle it between the roots, and then add another layer. So I'm not filling it up completely. I'm first doing it layer by layer, so that at every spot I avoid air pockets, and therefore I also need to put less pressure on the roots as I'm adding it. Now what you might notice is that I plant these trees quite deep. These are trees in development, they're not in show ready pots. So I prefer to work on a better root base, and the best way to do that is make sure that the surface roots stay nice, moist, and therefore covered with substrate. This is now ready for a good storm of water. Going to flush it, and then later, as the buds are opening further, I think I might take a few cuttings just to see how that goes. So, 6 weeks have passed. Weather has improved enormously. It's a lot warmer and the buds are really pushing. And now I'm just going to prune away some of the vertical stalks. I'm just going to open up the profile. So there's some branches like this one here, but also here there's a lot of cluttering going on. There's a few branches that come up and grow through the canopy like this one. And I'm just going to remove those. I'm going to cut them off. And so I'm going to do a quick pruning out. I'm not going to style it completely because it is a new species. I have some leftover siftings of pumice and I have some rooting hormones and some of the 1-year-old clippings. I'm just going to dip in the rooting hormone, plant in a pot, put that in a baggie and see whether they'll root. They are supposed to root from cuttings, but typically this is done midwinter. We'll see. I might be lucky or not. When pruning, don't go overboard. Keep in mind some things just bring character to the tree. So I have a branch here that comes up, dips down and then goes out. This branch I can later on try to wire out a little bit more like this. And then it's really characteristic for this tree to have a drooping branch like this. And that's pretty much it. You can see now already slowly this is opening up on the inside. I've removed here a big clump. That was this branch that was sitting in here. And now I have reduced it to only 2 tops and one of the 2 still needs to go. But yeah, as said, it is not styling choices at this point. This is really just thinning out so more light gets in. Planting them quite deep. All of these have of course been dipped already in rooting hormone. I really don't know whether this will work or not. These bricks have been on top of this pot for all of winter. It's now the middle of May. And yesterday I peeked and there's nothing there except for some unwelcome visitors. So I started digging around a little bit in the pot yesterday. And what I've noticed is that at least one seed was starting to germinate. So now, to reduce the risk of, I don't know, mice taking off with the seeds itself, I'm going to put this in a plastic baggie. That will stop the mice initially, and hopefully it will allow the seeds to come up. You know, you always see me doing this very, very quickly, but that's because I then use pots where it fits. Look, this doesn't actually fit. I guess I'll have to do a little bit of engineering. Now you don't have to share my excitement, but this is something I am really excited about. There are flower buds all over this tree. I have a little bit of extension growth, so the repotting was successful. This tree is alive. Let's see. I was told that these do not need male flowers to get a fruit. They create fruits even if they are not fertilized. That's a good news because I don't have any male kakis. It's the middle of May, and what we can see here is a little bit of fungal development, and also there is a little bit of fungal development here on these kaki cuttings. So I'm just going to leave the bag open and hope that it dries out a little bit, and in a couple of days this should be gone, but this is not a good development. Look at that. They're germinating. But somehow the seed coat doesn't seem to come off. Also here 2 other seeds are coming up. Here are a few leaves. Let's see how this works. I think I have to start putting it in the sun and stop protecting it from any critters. That is a risk, so I just wanted to show you these plants. It is the middle of May And these cuttings seem to be developing quite well. They've grown a bit. They're still healthy and perky. I think they have rooted. So from now on, I'm just going to leave the baggie on, but a little bit open. Just like this. And then slowly over time, the air gets a little less humid and these will start growing by itself. I don't see any fruits on here. I don't know whether it was too cold, too wet or too dry, but it hasn't set any fruits. Maybe it does need male flowers, but at least it is nice and healthy. I can actually unwire this one. Quite happy how this is coming along. And of course there was this low root that I marked for removal. Gone. Going to leave the root in the ground. Who knows, it might sprout. Lots and lots of fungal infections on these. Interestingly, because I was just getting questions on my channel whether I don't get fungal problems, and I said, no, I don't. Well, guess what? Here I do. This was quite infected with fungi, but if you look at these spots, that cutting is still green. There is a little bit of growth here. There are a few green leaves still at the base. Here there are still a few green tips. So I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave the cutting bag open. I'm going to leave it to grow just a little bit longer. I think this one might start to root. It is July and lots of these seeds have started to germinate and they're coming up out of the ground. But what you can also tell, the seed coats don't come off all that well by itself. And I've been trying over the last couple of days to help some of them out. And let's see whether I can help some more and show you what I do. Well, I'm now just using a knife and I'm sliding the knife in the seed coat and then it pops open and the first leaves can emerge. Considering it has been months since I planted these and we're in the middle of summer and I want to finish the video, I think these should have rooted. Now there's quite a few that have died. There's some living there, there's some living there. I don't want to wait any longer. I'm just going to see whether any of them has created roots, and if not, tough luck. And if yes, I hope I just don't damage them. If you're more patient than me, wait longer. So this one, which looked most promising, has not created a single root. That is actually in line with what I've read on a couple of fora, that these can stay alive for a year or more and still not grow roots. It's really, really odd. Next year I'm going to try it with not winter cuttings, but summer cuttings. These have not filled, of course, right? I can just keep them in a pot and see whether they do develop roots over the rest of the year. But I don't think I want to. Yeah. Well, that was a nice experiment. On the bright side, the main plant, Kaki, doing quite well. Well, I know the video already is about to end, but I just decided to interject. First week of August, and look at this. The pot is slap-bang full of seedlings. They kept on coming up and up and up and up. This is really promising. There's little sprouts everywhere still coming up in this pot, and it is already full. I'm just going to leave all of these in place and I'm not going to repot, and I'm only going to repot them in early spring. That also means that we're at the end of this video. Thank you for watching. This was Jelle, growing bonsai with